They came to interrogate me, mostly threatening me, but they were like, "Now you're a prisoner of war. We can transfer you to a category. War trophy." That was the language. Were you a Facebook user or a donor fan? Facebook user. Well, many people came to see me there for the first time, so they asked where the positions were. I was like, I knew where most of them were. Let's say, like, where the headquarters was, where our guys were, where they were taken. And I was like, I don't know, I'm a medic, how would I know? He was still playing dumb. He made up some story or something. Well, they didn't torture you, as I understand it. No, it was more like they tried to humiliate me emotionally, and... Well, they slapped me a couple of times, threatened me a bit, but they couldn't pull me by the hair because I don't have any. And so on. Basically, I was in a more or less stable state after about a week. My arm was twisted. I felt sorry for myself. I'm left-handed, plus that's my main working hand. That was pretty tough emotionally. It was really hard to deal with. I really felt sorry for myself there too. And plus, what I went through before being captured, those last 24 hours, I've never been that scared in my life. It was really terrifying. I know that very few guys made it out that day. I know that Alexei died then. He couldn't make it out either. Well, so I don't know. I guess I was lucky. Yeah, just lucky. Maybe it's for some reason. And after that, where were you transferred? I was in the hospital for almost a year, then they moved me to Huka. That's also in the so-called DNR, the Huka Colony. While you were in the hospital, were you under supervision? Was there security? There was a security company there. At first the attitude was okay. It wasn't bad, let's put it that way. There was a great guy there, an officer who understood that we were, already prisoners. I mean, why fight with someone who's already under your control? That's just, I don't know. I believe it's beneath a soldier's honor to mistreat someone who has already surrendered, even if you might want to, it's still dishonorable to abuse someone who can't do anything to you. And there, he would even bring some wafers, some cookies for the guys, saying like, it's all right. Hang in there, you'll be exchanged, everything will be fine. As it's done in Russia, it's clear that such a person was reasonably removed. They put in a simple brute, someone who abused the guys, those who were disabled. He insulted us, our national dignity, our country. She humiliated us. I mean, I personally got slapped by him a few times. He would just emotionally destroy people. There was a guy there who just couldn't take it anymore. He said he was tortured, and he wrote some documents, and then they started coming to him all the time. They had him sign some documents, and they started calling him a rat, saying that after everything, he ended up cooperating. These are such sneaky bastards, you just can't make any deals with them. I mean, I don't even know. The first task in captivity is to save your own life. But still, we have different views on everything. He tried. He hit himself. But yeah, it was pretty obvious. I don't know. They broke him down mentally. After that. So instead of somehow protecting him, they started bullying him even more. I see the same thing happening in other colonies too. And in the colonies, when I was there, when someone cooperated with them, right? No, when someone feels bad, or if they sense weakness, they're like jackals, they pounce, that's it, they finish you off. There was a man in Holyuka who was absolutely terrified of the stun gun. They kept beating him because it was fun. He screamed, he was scared, he cried. He would shake all over, and they would hit him on purpose, those who thought it was funny, just to get a reaction. That's why it was so important to hold yourself together, not to show any emotions, not to let them see what really bothered you, or how bad or good you felt. It was a really big challenge. After that, they shut our windows, we weren't allowed to get out of bed, and there were dietary restrictions. Then, after 9 months, they finally removed it for me without any painkillers. They took off this system from me, and by then it had already grown into my body. Honestly, that was probably even more painful than the wound itself. I mean, the wound itself. The adrenaline blocked out the pain from the wound, but with this thing, only when they pulled out the third pin did it finally numb the pain for me. Did you ask them why they couldn't give you any painkillers? Well, I asked, can I get a shot of painkiller? They basically told me, sit down and shut up. You know, they did everything live. I mean, they twisted it out with pliers right there. At that point, I realized it was a screw in me. This one wasn't fixed in place. Near the end, they just drilled straight through, and the rod was actually sticking out the other side. Because when they started to cut into my arm a bit, because, you know, I kept complaining, my arm was dry, all twisted up, and I thought, no, it's not working, let's try to do something about it. I started massaging it, trying to straighten it out a bit, working on it. It took 1.5 years before I could even lift my thumb properly. Of course, I showed the guys and said, this is a like. Yeah, so. Well. Right, what was I talking about? Oh, about the surgery, as an example. Yeah, so after the surgery, I was just standing in the hallway and felt like I was about to pass out. I asked, can I sit down, please? They were like, no, just wait a bit, I'll bring you a stretcher right now. So I was already heading back in pain shock, with a stretcher under my nose. What an adventure. And then, when the year was over, they told us about a new rule they came up with. You just say what you want, like an exchange, and you get out. It didn't matter if you were on crutches, missing a leg, or had a severe concussion and couldn't even stand. You step out into the hallway, and if you answer, you spread your wings and you're flying home. And that really amused him. Also, when they banned us from having beards, when they shaved me, they basically left everyone with a Hitler mustache. That really entertained them a lot. Well, and then they shaved it off, of course, closer to the evening. Was there anyone among the staff members, like that particular officer you mentioned, who treated you with some humanity and kindness during that entire year you were there at the facility? It's all very complicated there. There were some young guys who were more or less reasonable, but they live in those realities. They're constantly getting shelled in Donbass, and they believe that for some reason Ukraine decided to commit genocide against its own people. Like, they just didn't like something, and the people from the West came to Kiev and said, we need to get rid of everyone, basically. The whole Donbass needs to be destroyed, and they really believe this, because they're getting shelled, they're scared. People have been living in this for many years now. And, well, for example, when I was there, I'm not a military person, but I felt that most of the outgoing fire was near the hospital, and incoming fire was pretty rare. But nurses would come up to me and say, "See how your guys are shooting? We're constantly getting hit," and I just stay quiet and turn away. There were some guys from Azov with me there. I said, "Is it just me, or are those outgoing shots?" And they said, "Yeah, those are all outgoing." I said, "All right then." By the way, I ended up in the barracks right after Olenivka, in that Barak 200, the one that was there. And those guys, they were lying next to you, right? Yeah, up until the moment. When I saw them in the hospital. I mean, right away, Azov Regiment, okay, these are like some 3-meter tall, huge, bearded guys, completely covered in tattoos, with axes and stuff, basically real scary beasts. But here I see just normal guys, regular guys, just with their own interests, who went there with a purpose, trained. Prepared, but really just ordinary guys, you know. Jackson, by the way, if you're watching, Jackson, big shout out to you, he was released, so now he's all ready. Honestly, it was really nice when we were already flying in on the planes. I was on the last plane when we were flying into this. When we were already in Belarus, they opened our eyes. I see Jackson and I'm like, I'm really happy for him. He's a really great guy, really awesome. Now Super Yuvan is there, getting treatment from. A lot of really great guys. So mostly, while I was in captivity, I talked with the Azov guys throughout these 34 months. Yeah, mostly. Well, yeah, there were also Marines, there were Special Forces guys, there were people from the 36th and the 56th too. Well, for example, in Holyuka, most of the people I talked to, about 80%, were from Azov. I found it interesting to talk with them. With some of them, we had a lot of things in common. When I got home, the first thing I did was find their relatives, got in touch with them, and told them how the guys were doing. I saved their numbers for myself. Now I'm really waiting for the guys to come back, because they mean a lot. Everyone who was at Azovstal, Azov, the Marines, the National Guard, everyone did their part. All of them did something really important. If they hadn't drawn the enemy forces to that site back then, I don't know what things would be like now. And, well, it's tough being there during a time like that. Really tough. This past year has probably been the hardest for me emotionally. Because I started to feel this kind of dissociation. I tried to hide my emotions as much as possible. And because of that, there was this. Well, like, it's not happening to me. It's a dream, it's not real. It's just a phase. I mean, I didn't want to accept this reality. Yeah, I mean, that really saved me. I focused on my memories or on my plans. I learned something new, helped the guys out somehow. I read a lot of books, reread a bunch of them, learned to play chess. Jackson deserves credit. Thank you. So, as I understand it, after you were transferred from the hospital, you stayed in Holyuka the whole time, right? No. Look, I ended up in Holyuka in 2023. If I'm not mistaken, it was also at the end. Yeah, almost a year had passed. I think it was September 2023 when I ended up in Huka. Right from the very beginning, it was a complete mess. So, they brought us there. First of all, they told us, that's it, you're here for an exchange, that's it, that's the deal. And we get out of the van, well, more like they force us out of the van. The first thing that happens is someone spins me around, slams me against the bus, arms and legs spread out, they search me, and there's this star. Then you turn around, say your full name, patronymic, last name, year of birth, the date, and you run and sit on your haunches. After that, they took us to the punishment cell. What they call the PKT, a cell-type facility. There they put us through intake, that's what it's called, meaning they stripped us completely and beat us. They beat us with rubber batons, they beat us with these pipes, with hoses. When they brought us to the cell, my entire right side was black and yellow. I mean, it was pitch black. Some of the Azov guys had it really rough too, because they were beaten in the groin. The bigger you are, the more they beat you. That's just how it was. Plus, they have a huge hatred toward Azov. Because of that, the guys got it even worse. That only happened in Huka. Or was it everywhere? I talked to one of our guys, and he told me that, for example, in Kursk they were beaten, but in Rostov it was even worse. Rostov is a whole other story. I want to talk separately about the Rostov Special Forces. So, basically, it turns out that besides the beatings during intake, every time we went out for a walk, they beat us too. Sometimes, you know. One of my friends from Azov, whom I met back in the hospital and got along with really well, they took him out separately. There, they beat him with a baton and also hit him pretty hard in the genitals. Plus, we had to stand for 16 hours straight, so our legs would swell up. Just imagine people who have been sitting all the time. It was really tough there. The lights were on all the time. Every time we went out for a walk, they beat us at the entrance too. They broke one of my ribs. There was a moment when some guy, an officer, came up to me and, well, I don't know, it sounded kind of strange. He came up and said, well, if they start really messing with you, just write to me, I'll take care of it. They saw that I was a good-natured person, and I think they figured, now we'll get this Malashka under control. Like, I was supposed to be a snitch. Yeah, I was like, I get it, goodbye. Honestly, it was even insulting to me. Then we sat there for 2 weeks, and they transferred us to the barracks. At that time, my arm was still hurting. The barracks are a whole other story. So we arrived, and they seated us separately. For me. Wake up was at 6 in the morning. In the morning, we had to sing the Russian anthem. Standard morning exercise. And then every 2 hours there was a check. They'd come in from time to time and beat us up. When you go to the cafeteria, you get beaten, and when you leave the cafeteria, you get beaten. People would move faster, not linger, because they had much to do, many people to deal with. How did they feed us? They fed us fatty food, mostly barley and wheat porridge. And pro-barley. So, there was about 400 grams of meat for 10 people. That was only for lunch, and that's it. In the morning, porridge. During the day, first course was some kind of broth, cabbage broth or cabbage broth with beetroot. Kind of like borscht. For the second course, either porridge, mostly porridge, and a small piece of some kind of meat. In the beginning, especially the gruel, it was honestly rough, because there was a lot of fat that spread, and it was hard, especially on the pancreas, after I'd spent a year on a special diet.